I'm going to throw out an idea where design can fix a whole range of problems in society. I'm not saying that this is the best idea in the world. I'm saying it'll make you think about design as a solution in a way you haven't done before. Somebody in the comments is saying, hooray for engineers. Exactly. Engineers already have the ability, with designers, etc., and scientists, we have the technical ability to solve almost all of our major problems if we design correctly. We already have the technology, the people, the will, the money, all the other things. I'm going to talk about how to fix everything in the future. So I have a hypothesis or a belief, I'm not sure what it is, that most of the future can be fixed with good design. So we don't always design things well, but when we do, it changes everything. If you look at the success of Apple, for example, the success of Apple isn't really just technical greatness, which they have, it's design. Design is what makes you, I've raved about this before, these little earbuds. The frickin' design of these things is so insanely good that you fall in love with this product. I mean, you just love it. Like, I don't want to travel anywhere without this. Every part of this is so well done that it makes you actually love it. Now imagine that idea taken to fixing a whole bunch of other society's problems. I'm going to throw out an idea where design can fix a whole range of problems in society. I'm not saying that this is the best idea in the world. I'm saying it'll make you think about design as a solution in a way you haven't done before. Somebody in the comments is saying, hooray for engineers. Exactly. Engineers already have the ability, with designers, etc., and scientists, we have the technical ability to solve almost all of our major problems if we design correctly. We already have the technology, the people, the will, the money, all the other things. It's just design. Here's the example. I'm not going to talk too much about my argument for these because I want to give you a bunch of ideas all at once to let them percolate. What is one of the biggest problems with adding nuclear power plants to the United States? Well, one of the biggest problems is that nobody wants it placed in their neighborhood, right? So the first thing you know is that a big obstacle to nuclear power, especially the newer plants like Generation 3 has never had a meltdown. Generation 4, it won't even be possible to have a meltdown, but we need some more development in that area. But what's really stopping you is nobody wants it near them. So, if we were to start with a blank slate and design, how would you fix that? Let me suggest this way. The people who would be willing to live near a nuclear plant should be the people whose risk would go down. Is there anybody you can think of in the United States who, if you move them from where they are to living near a nuclear plant, so here, that's the point, is that you're moving people to where the plant is. If you did that, who would have less risk? Answer, everybody who grew up in a bad part of town. So anybody who came from an inner city, dangerous, crime-infested area, if you were to take them from that area and say, look, we're going to move you to a place that there used to be nothing, but now we're building a nuclear plant. It's a Generation 3 or a Generation 4. The odds of a problem are minuscule. The odds of getting killed where you are is very high. All right, so the first thing you know is that if you move people who are at higher risk than nuclear could ever even suggest, that you've improved their lives because you've greatly improved their risk situation. Now, imagine that you build your nuclear plant and it's to power other people, but you build what I'll call Poor Town. P-O-O-R, Poor Town. Now, Poor Town would be a place, a city, a community, an area that's built around a nuclear plant. And the people moving there have to have low income, but otherwise be capable of working, etc. So you can move there. Now, the first thing you're going to get is you've got away from your crime, and there's plenty of science to suggest that moving your location, getting out of a bad place and getting in a new environment makes a gigantic difference in your ability to succeed. That's well proven. Science has demonstrated that many times. So the first model is, instead of trying to fix people where they already live, how about just moving them out of their environment to a new place in which they can be part of building this new place? So you got your nuclear power, which means that the people in Poor Town are going to have very low energy costs. When you have very low energy costs, you can also have seawater desalination, because the big expense of desalination is the energy it takes. So you build a desalination plant next to a nuclear power plant. They work really well together. And you put a pipe in the ocean, and you've got all the water you want, and the desalination turns it into clean water. All right? So now you've got cheap water, you've got cheap energy, and then you start using these Lego-like building technologies where you've designed the best homes and you've got pre-approved designs. So you say to the poor people moving in, the bricks are free. All you have to do is put them together, but you have to do them in one of these approved designs so that we don't have to have a design process. We don't have to worry if the roof is going to fall down. These would be one-story homes, not much risk. You can build them yourself. And the bricks are going to come from the tunneling and the underground work that we do. So the bricks are free. So all you have to do is come in, build your own home, build it as big as you want, as long as it's part of the approved designs. So now you've got cheap housing, cheap water, cheap energy, and you've got a whole bunch of people who didn't have employment before they moved there. Suddenly, it's a great place for somebody to put a farm or a business around there, because they've got access to all these people who have low housing costs and low crime, and they're willing to work. So you've got a good workforce there. It's a good place for a company to relocate. Now, if you were to design your new community with lots of video cameras and access to security and stuff, you could get rid of crime and all the expense of it. If you designed the place right, you could reduce the cost of transportation to practically nothing. I mean, if you build underground tunnels for bicycles, everybody could get everywhere with almost no problem whatsoever. What's the problem with riding a bicycle? It's the weather, right? You don't want to be above ground and you don't want to have hills. If you had underground tunnels for every kind of bicycle, you could wear a business suit and bicycle for miles because you would be on a flat surface and no weather, and you could just have one of those lean back bicycles that you don't even have to sit on a regular bicycle seat. So if you designed from the beginning to make a community that was for poor people, and you could relocate them from where they used to be and into this town with some kind of vetting, they contribute. Oh, here's another thing you could do. So indoor farming, what's the big expense for indoor farming? The big expense is labor, and this town would have lots of inexpensive labor, so that part's covered, and energy, because it takes a lot of electricity to keep the lights on and everything in your building, and to keep the temperature right. But if you're located next to a nuclear power plant, your energy is cheap, or it could be if that's how you designed the whole thing. So now you've got cheap food, and it's the good kind. It's not fast food. It's good food that you're growing there. You've got cheap water, you've got cheap energy, you've got cheap housing. And you can imagine this concept taken to everything else. Maybe you put in a hospital there so that you've also got good health care. Maybe use it to test some health care solutions, etc. Somebody says, what incentive? What incentive for what? It would be a commercial enterprise. The nuclear industry would be happy to participate because they would not only be creating energy for the town, but they'd be selling it outside the town. So I think everybody wins. They'd have a place to put their energy, a place to put their plant, somebody to sell it to, etc. And everybody would have jobs eventually because it would be a perfect hiring pool. All right, so I'm not saying this is the greatest idea in the world. I'm making a general statement that design will save the future. And design specifically will take the cost of living a quality life from so high that ordinary people can't afford it down to the level where ordinary people can't afford it. And that's an engineering design question. All right, but more importantly, I think that these designed places could be way more fun to live in and more satisfying. I like to use the example of my college dormitory experience. One of my best living situations was a college dormitory, which on paper should have been the worst because I didn't have a house, I had a little room, etc. The reason that my college experience was the best living situation I've ever had is because it was designed from scratch to be exactly that. I loved not having to shop for food, prepare food, do dishes. I would just walk a few steps away to the cafeteria and they do all that for me. So having a central cafeteria might be a really good way to lower costs for a community. You don't even need a kitchen. And the other thing that was good about college is that transportation was free because I could walk everywhere that I needed to walk. There wasn't anywhere I needed to go that I needed a vehicle. They designed it so I had free transportation. The other thing that I had for free is entertainment. Because it was designed to be a place where people would naturally meet and they're naturally the same age, they have the same interests, they're all in college, you had unlimited entertainment because you were in the right place with the right people doing some kind of a common stuff. So design, the way it's been applied to college, the same concept of design, not the same model, but the idea of designing could be brought to the real world outside of college. And I think you would have the most awesome poor town you ever had. And when I call it poor town, I'm being a little bit ironic. It would be something specifically for poor people to move there and be able to regain their life. Maybe there's even classes and education and stuff so they can really rebuild.